The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and intent. But what happens when something steps into that web from beyond, something that does not register in the Force, something that hunts for reasons older than the Jedi and darker than the Sith? The answer arrived on a night when 3 moons hung over the Imperial garrison world of Scarif, and death wore a face of mandibles and honor. The Yautja dropship pierced the atmosphere without triggering a single sensor. Cloaking technology far beyond anything the Empire possessed bent light and radiation around its hull, rendering it invisible to even the most sophisticated scanning arrays. Inside, a single hunter prepared for what its clan elders had deemed the most sacred hunt in 10,000 cycles. The thermal readings had been clear, this galaxy teemed with life, but one signature burned hotter than binary stars. A presence of rage, power, and darkness that called across the void like a war drum. The Predator's name, in its clicking language, translated roughly to Dark Sky Killer. It had earned the title across 17 worlds and 43 hunts, claiming trophies from the most dangerous apex predators in known space. But those were animals, instinct-driven beasts. The elders spoke of something different here. Warriors who commanded invisible forces, who could move objects with thought alone, who wielded blades of pure energy. The recordings captured from this galaxy showed armored soldiers by the thousands, massive ships that dwarfed Yautja vessels, and at the center of it all, him. The black armored figure whose very presence seemed to drain light from the void. Darth Vader. The name had been extracted from captured Imperial transmissions. Dark Lord of the Sith. The Emperor's enforcer. Undefeated in single combat. Perfect prey. Dark Sky Killer's mandibles clicked in anticipation as the dropship descended toward Scarif's jungle-covered southern continent, far from the main Imperial citadel. The hunt would begin slowly, methodically. Study the prey's forces. Understand their weapons and tactics. Claim lesser trophies to prove worthiness. Only then would the true hunt begin. This was the way, the code that separated Yautja from mindless killers. The ship touched down in a clearing 15 kilometers from an Imperial patrol station. Dark Sky Killer emerged into humid air thick with the scent of vegetation and animal life. Twin moons cast silver light through the canopy, and the hunter's biomask cycled through vision modes, thermal signatures of small creatures in the undergrowth, electromagnetic readings from the distant Imperial facility, movement prediction algorithms tracking wind patterns and structural weak points. The technology was ancient, refined over millennia of hunting. The prey would never see death coming. The predator activated its cloaking field and vanished into the jungle. Even the Force-sensitive creatures native to Scarif couldn't detect its presence. It moved like smoke through shadows, each step calculated to produce zero sound. Within an hour, it reached the patrol station's perimeter. 14 life signs inside the structure, all human or near human. Predictable patrol patterns. Thermal imaging showed weapons lockers, communication arrays, and a small hangar bay containing 2 TIE fighters. These would be the first trophies. Not worthy of the main hunt, but necessary to understand the prey's capabilities. Dark Sky Killer waited until the perimeter patrol, 2 stormtroopers in white armor, passed beneath a massive tree. The hunter descended in absolute silence, wrist blades extending with a whisper of metal. The first trooper died without knowing death had arrived, blades punching through the weak points where neck armor met helmet. The second turned at his partner's collapse, blaster rising, but the Predator's combo stick impaled him through the chest plate before his finger reached the trigger. Both bodies were dragged into the undergrowth in seconds. The hunter's claws worked quickly, removing helmets to examine the faces beneath. Human. Young. Afraid, even in death. Their final expressions told the story. These were not apex predators. These were pack animals, relying on numbers and technology rather than individual prowess. Disappointing, but informative. If these were the black-armored one's soldiers, then Vader himself must be exponentially more dangerous to command such loyalty through fear. Dark Skykiller claimed the first trophy, a spinal column, removed with surgical precision, and sealed it in a preservation container. The hunt had begun. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The Predator moved toward the facility itself, plasma caster charging on its shoulder mount. The real test would come when the prey realized they were being hunted. The next 12 minutes would determine whether these Imperial forces deserved respect or merely swift death. The compound's lights blazed against the jungle darkness, and inside, men who had never known true fear were about to learn what it meant to become prey. The patrol station's command center erupted into chaos at 0247 hours local time. Sergeant Venn stared at the security monitors as two of his perimeter guards simply disappeared from their patrol route. No distress call. No blaster fire. Just static where their life signs should have been. Get me a visual on Patrol Team 7, Venn barked at the communications officer. The young man's fingers flew across the console, cycling through exterior cameras. Jungle. More jungle. A brief flicker of movement that could have been wind or. The power died. Emergency lights kicked in immediately, bathing the command center in crimson, but half the security feeds went dark. Venn's hand dropped to his blaster. In 3 years serving the Empire on Scarif, he'd dealt with rebel saboteurs, local insurgents, and even a rogue Wookiee. This felt different. The air itself seemed to thicken with predatory intent. All units, this is command, Venn spoke into his comlink. We have a potential hostile intrusion. Sector 7 patrol is MIA. Full tactical alert. Teams 1 and 2, converge on last known position. Team 3, secure the blast door exploded inward. Not from explosives, from something that hit it with enough force to tear durasteel from its hinges. The door crashed into the communications console, sparks erupting as systems overloaded. Through the smoke and emergency lighting, Venn saw nothing. Just empty corridor. Then the thermal distortion, like heat rising from sand, and 3 red targeting dots appeared on the nearest trooper's chest. The plasma caster fired. The bolt of superheated energy vaporized the stormtrooper's chest plate and the man inside it, spraying molten armor across the walls. The other troopers opened fire, blaster bolts filling the corridor with crimson light. Most shots hit empty air. One struck something solid. A flicker of disrupted cloaking revealed a massive humanoid shape for half a second before it vanished again. Spread out. Venn shouted, but the words died as a wrist blade erupted through his chest from behind. The Predator had circled through the ventilation system, moving faster than its size suggested possible. It lifted the sergeant off his feet and hurled his body at the nearest group of troopers, scattering them like pins. Dark Skykiller moved through the command center like a force of nature. Combo stick extending, it impaled 2 troopers in a single thrust. Smart disc deployed, the spinning blade ricocheting off walls to decapitate a third before returning to the hunter's hand. These warriors had courage, they held formation, covered firing arcs, used suppression tactics, but they fought an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't predict, and couldn't hurt. One trooper got lucky. His blaster bolt struck the Predator's shoulder, burning through the cloaking mesh and scoring the bioarmor beneath. Dark Skykiller roared, a sound that no human throat could produce, somewhere between a lion's challenge and metal tearing. The trooper died seconds later, but he'd drawn first blood. The hunt was becoming interesting. The hunter's biomask cycled through tactical assessments. 13 hostiles eliminated. 1 remaining in the facility, barricaded in the communication room attempting to send a distress signal. Dark Skykiller considered letting the transmission complete, let the Prey's superiors know something was hunting in their territory, but decided against it. Too early. The black-armored one must not be alerted until the hunter was ready. The communication room's reinforced door proved more resistant than the others. The Predator placed a small plasma charge at the locking mechanism and stepped back. The explosion was precise, surgical. Inside, the final trooper had his blaster raised, finger tight on the trigger, fear and courage warring in his eyes. He fired 6 shots before the Predator's net gun deployed, wrapping him in electrified mesh that stopped his heart instantly. Dark Skykiller examined the communication console. The distress signal had been composed but not sent. The trooper had been encrypting it when the door breached. Good. The Empire would find this facility eventually, but not tonight. The hunter had time to complete the proper rituals. Outside, under the 3 moons of Scarif, Dark Skykiller arranged the bodies in a specific pattern. This was crucial, the message must be clear to any who found it. 14 spines removed with precision. Skulls cleaned and marked with Yautja glyphs indicating, unworthy but brave. The bodies themselves positioned in a circle, facing outward, a traditional display that meant, these warriors died honorably but were not sufficient challenge. The Predator took no pleasure in killing the unworthy. These troopers were soldiers following orders, no different from young hunters defending clan ships. But they served the ultimate prey, and their deaths served a purpose, to announce that a hunter had arrived. To declare challenge. To say that somewhere in this galaxy, something stalked the unstoppable Dark Lord, and honor demanded confrontation. Dark Skykiller activated the facility's main power before departing, ensuring the lights would draw scavengers and witnesses. Let them find this place. Let them spread word of the massacre. Let the Praise Empire wonder what force could annihilate a garrison without triggering alarms or leaving survivors. Fear was a hunter's tool as much as any weapon. The Predator climbed to the canopy and perched on a branch 50 meters above ground, biomask recording everything. Dawn was approaching, painting the sky in shades of orange and crimson. The jungle came alive with morning sounds, predatory birds calling, insects droning, something large moving through the undergrowth. This world was rich with life. The hunt could have been enjoyable here, tracking the apex predators through ancient forests. But that was not why Dark Skykiller had crossed the void between galaxies. Somewhere on this world, or perhaps on another within this system, Imperial forces would discover what had happened here. They would investigate. They would report to superiors. And eventually, if the gods of the hunt smiled favorably, word would reach him, the dark warrior whose presence burned like a funeral pyre in the recordings, whose reputation as an unstoppable killer made him perfect prey. Darth Vader would learn that something hunted in his empire. And when he came to investigate, the true hunt would begin. Burn suggested the shooter had targeting systems of extraordinary accuracy, firing from positions that should have been impossible to achieve so quickly. A hunter. A skilled one. Using advanced technology and tactics that spoke of long experience. But hunting what? Imperial forces? Or something specific? The Dark Lord stood, black cape swirling. Through the Force, he touched the lingering terror in this place, reading it like a book. The troopers had fought bravely but uselessly, firing at an enemy they couldn't see. Something had moved among them with impunity, killing. The Superstar Destroyer Executor hung in orbit above Scarif like a dagger pressed against the planet's throat. On the bridge, Admiral Kendall Ozzel reviewed the morning reports with growing unease. One of the patrol stations in the southern jungle had gone dark at 0247 hours. Standard procedure dictated waiting for scheduled check-in at 0600 before investigating. Systems failures were common in Scarif's humid climate. But at 0600, the aerial reconnaissance team sent their footage. Ozzel had served under Lord Vader for 2 years. He'd witnessed the Dark Lord execute officers for smaller failures than losing contact with an entire garrison. The Admiral's hand shook slightly as he keyed the comm channel he dreaded most. "My lord, we have a situation on Scarif. The response came in that mechanized breathing that haunted every Imperial officer's nightmares. Explain. Patrol Station 794 went offline during the night watch. We sent a recon team at dawn. The entire garrison is dead, my lord. 14 men. The footage is disturbing. Silence. Then, send it to my personal chamber. I will review it myself. Ozzel exhaled slowly. At least Vader hadn't asked for his presence during the review. Small mercies. The Admiral transferred the files and tried to focus on other duties, but his mind kept returning to the images. He'd seen rebel ambushes, local insurgent attacks, even wildlife incidents. This was none of those. This was something that killed trained stormtroopers without triggering alarms, something that arranged bodies in patterns that made the recon team's veterans physically ill. In his meditation chamber aboard the Executor, Darth Vader stood before the holographic display. The images cycled through the massacre site in brutal detail. 14 spines removed with surgical precision. Skulls marked with symbols in no known language. Bodies arranged in a circle that suggested ritual rather than battlefield chaos. Weapons fired but few shots hitting their mark. No rebel insignia. No political message. Just death delivered with methodical efficiency. Vader's artificial breathing filled the chamber. Through the Force, he reached out toward Scarif, extending his consciousness across the void to touch the planet's surface. The death there registered as brief echoes in the Force, fear, pain, then nothing. But beneath those echoes, something else. A void. A presence that didn't register in the Force at all, as if something had carved a hole in the fabric of reality itself. This was new. Intriguing. And potentially dangerous. Vader had hunted Jedi across the galaxy. He knew how Force users felt in his enhanced senses, bright stars or dark voids depending on their allegiance. Even non-Force sensitive beings registered as dim presences. But this was absence. Not darkness, not light, just nothing. As if whatever killed those troopers didn't exist in the Force at all. The Dark Lord accessed the Imperial databanks, searching for similar incidents. 3 more patrol stations across the Outer Rim had reported anomalies in the past week. 1 on Tatooine. 5 stormtroopers found dead with spinal columns removed. Another on Ord Mantell, a garrison commander killed in his office, skull missing, no signs of forced entry. A third on Radia, entire squad vanished during jungle patrol, found days later in a similar arrangement to the Scarif massacre. A pattern. A hunter. Something stalking Imperial forces with clear purpose and skill. Vader's gloved hands clenched. The Emperor had charged him with maintaining order through fear. Any threat to Imperial authority was a threat to that order. And something was hunting his soldiers like animals, displaying them like trophies. Unacceptable. Admiral Ozzel, Vader's voice crackled through the bridge comm, set course for Scarif. Prepare a shuttle. I will investigate personally. On the bridge, Ozzel paled. My lord, is that wise? Whatever killed those troopers could. Could what, Admiral? The temperature on the bridge seemed to drop 10 degrees. Are you suggesting I cannot handle what your troopers failed to survive? No, my lord. Of course not, I only meant. Then obey. The comm clicked off. Ozzel sagged in his command chair. Around him, junior officers found sudden urgent tasks to attend to. No one wanted to be noticed when Lord Vader was in this mood. The Admiral keyed the navigation console. You heard him. Scarif orbit, maximum speed. And prep the Lambda shuttle. Full security detail. How many troops should accompany Lord Vader, sir? The tactical officer asked. Ozzel considered. How many stormtroopers did it take to protect the Sith Lord? The question was almost philosophical. Full platoon. Heavy weapons. If something is hunting our forces, let's ensure it has no shortage of targets. 2 hours later, Vader's shuttle descended through Scarif's atmosphere toward the massacre site. The Dark Lord stood in the passenger bay, lightsaber clipped to his belt, mind focused on the task ahead. Around him, 30 stormtroopers checked weapons and armor with the nervous efficiency of soldiers who knew their commander tolerated no failure. The shuttle landed in the clearing beside the patrol station. The bodies had been removed, but the blood remained, dried pools staining the ground in patterns that spoke of violent death. Vader descended the ramp and stopped, extending his senses through the Force. The echoes were stronger here, more recent. Fear. Pain. Confusion. And beneath it all, that void. That impossible absence that moved through the facility like a ghost. "My lord," the platoon sergeant approached cautiously. The bodies were arranged in that clearing, approximately 50 meters north. The medical examination showed. I know what the examination showed. Vader walked toward the station entrance. I require no analysis. I will see for myself. Inside the facility, evidence of the massacre remained. Scorch marks from plasma weapons, not blaster fire, something hotter and more concentrated. Claw marks in durasteel walls that should have been impossible to dent. Blast doors torn from their hinges by brute force. And everywhere, that strange absence in the Force, like footprints made of nothing. Vader knelt beside a wall where thermal scoring was deepest. His gloved hand traced the pattern. Whatever weapon caused this used technology unknown to Imperial science. The precision was remarkable, every shot had killed instantly, no wasted energy. The placement of T with methodical efficiency. Not rage. Not hatred. Just purpose. My lord. The sergeant's voice crackled through the calm, "We've found something in the jungle. You should see this." Vader strode outside. The troopers had formed a perimeter around a massive tree, and halfway up its trunk, carved into the bark with precise cuts, was a symbol. Not basic, not Orbesh, not any language in Imperial databases. The symbol showed a stylized skull within a triangle, surrounded by marks that might have been tally counts. Dark Skykiller had left its signature. The hunt was formally announced. Vader stared at the symbol for a long moment. Then his lightsaber ignited, crimson blade humming in the jungle air. With a single stroke, he carved his own symbol below the hunter's mark, the Imperial crest, but with a distinctive slash through it that every being in the galaxy would recognize as Vader's personal signature. "Whatever you are," Vader spoke to the empty jungle, "you have made a grave mistake. You hunt my soldiers. You desecrate my Emperor's domain. And now you will learn that some prey bite back." In the canopy 300 meters away, Dark Skykiller watched through enhanced optics. The biomask's translator decoded the mechanical voice, parsing the challenge. The black-armored one had come. Perfect. The hunter's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. This was the prey. This was the ultimate trophy. The one who commanded invisible forces, who radiated power that bent reality itself. The predator raised its plasma caster, targeting reticle settling on Vader's chest. One shot. The hunt could end here. But no, that would be dishonorable. The prey must know it was being hunted. Must have the chance to prove its worthiness. To kill from ambush, without the prey's knowledge, was the act of a coward. Dark Skykiller triggered its vocal mimicry system, replaying Vader's challenge in the Dark Lord's own mechanical voice. The sound echoed through the jungle from multiple directions, surrounding the Imperial forces. Vader's head snapped up. His lightsaber moved in a defensive arc as he extended his senses, searching for the source. Nothing. Just that void, that absence, but now it felt closer. Watching. Evaluating. Perimeter formation, the sergeant barked. Something's out there. But the jungle remained silent except for native sounds. No attack came. Just the eerie repetition of Vader's own words, mocking him from invisible speakers. The Dark Lord deactivated his lightsaber. Return to the shuttle. We are leaving. My lord. The sergeant sounded confused. Should we not search the area? Searching is pointless. Whatever killed these troopers is still here, watching. It mimics voices. It uses cloaking technology. And it is intelligent enough to know that attacking me directly would be suicide. Vader turned toward the shuttle. It wants me to know it exists. Consider the message received. As the shuttle lifted off, Vader watched the jungle through the viewport. Somewhere in that green sea, something hunted. Something that didn't fear the Empire, didn't register in the Force, and had the audacity to challenge a Sith Lord. Interesting. Most beings fled from Vader's presence. This one invited confrontation. Very well. If the creature wanted a hunt, the Dark Lord would oblige. But it would learn a painful lesson. In the galaxy far, far away, there were predators far more dangerous than any alien hunter. And Darth Vader had not earned his reputation by showing mercy to those who defied the Empire. The hunt had been accepted. Now it would see who was truly the apex predator. The Lambda shuttle's engines screamed as it lifted off from Scarif, but Vader wasn't aboard. At the last moment, the Dark Lord had stepped off the ramp and ordered the platoon to return to the executor. The sergeant had protested, protocol demanded the Lord's protection, but a single gesture from Vader's hand had silenced him. The shuttle departed, leaving the Sith Lord alone in the jungle clearing as night fell. This was personal now. The creature had challenged him, mocked him with his own voice. Vader would not respond with an army. He would respond as a hunter himself, proving that no being in this galaxy or any other could threaten the Empire without consequence. The jungle around him pulsed with life, insects droning, nocturnal predators beginning their hunts, the humid air thick with the scent of vegetation and decay. Through the Force, Vader reached out, searching for the void he'd sensed earlier. There. Approximately 400 meters east, moving through the canopy with inhuman agility. The absence was clearer now, a hole in the Force that moved with purpose. Whatever this creature was, it existed outside the natural order, immune to the energy field that bound all living things. Fascinating. And exploitable. If it didn't exist in the Force, it couldn't sense danger through precognition. Couldn't anticipate attacks the way a Jedi might. Its advantages were purely technological and physical. Vader had faced worse. The Dark Lord ignited his lightsaber and moved into the jungle. His heavy footfalls crushed undergrowth, making no attempt at stealth. Let the creature know he was coming. Let it prepare. The challenge had been issued both ways. Now came the test. Dark Skykiller watched from a massive tree branch as the black-armored warrior approached. The biomask's analytical systems processed the glowing red blade, measuring its temperature, greater than 1,800 degrees Celsius. Energy signature, unknown type, possibly plasma contained by magnetic field, and cutting potential, absolute, capable of slicing through any known material. The prey carried a weapon worthy of respect. Good. The Predator's thermal vision tracked Vader's approach. Strange, the internal temperature readings showed significant cybernetic augmentation. Major portions of the prey's body were mechanical, including the respiratory system and much of the limbs. A warrior rebuilt after catastrophic injury, yet still fighting. Even more worthy. The greatest hunts came from prey that refused to die, that conquered death itself to continue their path. Dark Skykiller decided to test the prey's capabilities before the true confrontation. The plasma caster swiveled, targeting reticles settling on a tree trunk 2 meters to Vader's right. The shot fired, superheated plasma screaming through humid air. Vader's lightsaber moved with impossible speed, intercepting the bolt mid-flight. The plasma dispersed against the crimson blade in a shower of sparks and heat. The Dark Lord didn't break stride, continuing his advance as if swatting aside orbital strikes was routine. His mechanical voice cut through the jungle sounds. Impressive technology. But you face something beyond your understanding. 3 more plasma bolts fired in rapid succession from different angles. The Predator had repositioned between each shot using its shoulder-mounted caster. Vader deflected 2 with his lightsaber and used the Force to deflect the third into a tree, which exploded in flames. Still, he advanced. Dark Skykiller's mandibles clicked in growing excitement. The prey could deflect energy weapons with the glowing blade and invisible forces. This was the challenge the hunt required. The Predator holstered the plasma caster and deployed its combo stick, extending the spear to full length. Technology against mystical power. Close combat would reveal which philosophy reigned supreme. The hunter dropped from the canopy, cloaking field active. To normal vision, it was invisible. But Vader's mechanical breathing altered tempo slightly. The Dark Lord sensed something. Not through sight, but through subtle cues. The displacement of air. The faint shimmer of light distortion. And perhaps something else, some instinct honed through decades of combat. Vader's lightsaber slashed horizontally at empty air. The blade passed inches from Dark Skykiller's chest, forcing the Predator to leap backward, briefly visible in mid-air before the cloaking re-engaged. The Sith Lord tracked the landing spot and thrust forward, crimson blade punching into the ground where the hunter had been milliseconds before. "You cannot hide from me," Vader stated. "I see you clearly." A lie, but an effective one. Dark Skykiller adjusted tactics, recognizing that the prey possessed sensory capabilities beyond vision. The biomask cycled through countermeasures. If the prey could detect thermal displacement, then the hunter would use the environment. The Predator triggered a small device attached to its belt, a wide-spectrum flashbang designed to overwhelm sensors while leaving the biomask's protected vision unaffected. The explosion of light and sound erupted between them. Vader's helmet filtered most of the sensory overload, but the blast forced him back a step. In that opening, Dark Skykiller struck. The combo stick swept low, aiming for the mechanical legs that thermal imaging had identified as vulnerable points. Vader leaped, using the Force to propel himself 3 meters straight up, higher than human physiology should allow. The combo stick whistled through empty air. But the Predator had anticipated, already pivoting to track the prey's trajectory. As Vader descended, Dark Skykiller's wrist blades extended and slashed at the exposed joint between chest armor and cape. Metal shrieked against metal. The blades found purchase, scoring deep gouges in Vader's chest plate but not penetrating the armor fully. The Dark Lord landed and immediately spun, lightsaber creating a defensive perimeter that forced the Predator back. For 3 seconds, hunter and prey faced each other. Cloaking field flickering where the wrist blades had overheated from contact with the armor. Vader didn't pursue. Instead, he extended his hand. Dark Skykiller felt invisible pressure wrap around its body, not physical, but something else, something that gripped without touching. The Force choke. The prey's most feared technique, according to Imperial transmissions. The pressure increased, crushing inward. But Yautja physiology was robust. Redundant respiratory systems. Reinforced skeletal structure. The hunter endured 30 seconds of crushing Force pressure before firing its net gun point blank. The electrified net deployed, wrapping around Vader's outstretched arm. The electrical charge disrupted his concentration momentarily, just long enough for Dark Skykiller to break free and retreat into the undergrowth. Vader tore through the net with his lightsaber as if it were paper. He pursued, tracking the void in the force as it moved rapidly through the jungle. The creature was fast, faster than most beings he'd hunted. It used the terrain expertly, leaping between trees, swinging from vines, putting obstacles between itself and pursuit. But the Dark Lord was relentless. Where the creature climbed, Vader used the Force to propel himself. Where it hid, Vader sensed the absence and attacked preemptively. For 7 minutes, the chase continued through increasingly dense jungle, both combatants testing the other's limits. Then Dark Skykiller stopped running. The Predator had led Vader to specific terrain, a rocky clearing with cliffs on 3 sides, limiting escape routes but providing elevated positions. A kill box. The hunter deactivated its cloaking field, standing openly for the first time, allowing the prey to see what hunted him. Vader halted at the clearing's edge. The creature stood over 7 feet tall, powerfully built, with mottled reptilian skin and armor that looked both organic and technological. The face, if it could be called that, featured mandibles that clicked rhythmically, and the biomask's lenses glowed with amber light. In one hand, it held the combo stick. The other activated a wrist-mounted device that projected a hologram. The hologram showed Vader himself, frozen in combat stance. Around the image, Yautja glyphs appeared. Symbols that clearly marked the Dark Lord as designated prey. Then the hologram shifted, showing a skull icon and a tally count. 14 marks. The troopers killed on Scarif. A message: this is a hunt, you are the prey, and your soldiers were merely practice. Vader's mechanical breathing intensified. You make your intent clear. But you have not faced a Sith Lord before. Your trophies will end with those troopers. Dark Skykiller's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. The universal translator in its biomask parsed the words, and the Predator responded with its own clicking language, filtered through the vocal mimicry system to produce a gravelly approximation of speech: worthy, strong, fast, but not unbeatable. The hunt continues. Both warriors moved simultaneously. Vader unleashed a devastating force push that should have crushed the Predator against the cliff face. But Dark Skykiller fired its grappling hook mid-flight, anchoring to an overhead branch and swinging out of the blast radius. The force wave obliterated the cliff wall instead, sending tons of rock cascading down. The Predator landed on an elevated outcropping and fired 3 quick plasma shots while drawing a smart disc with its free hand. Vader deflected 2 shots and dodged the third, but the smart disc came from an unexpected angle, spinning through the air with guided flight systems. The Dark Lord caught it with the force inches from his neck and hurled it back at double speed. Dark Skykiller barely dodged its own weapon, the disc scoring a line across its shoulder armor before returning to the hunter's hand. First blood, green luminescent blood dripped from the wound. The Predator's biomask systems administered emergency coagulants, sealing the cut. Pain was irrelevant. This prey fought with skill and power that justified the hunt across galaxies. Vader sensed the creature's determination through the brief contact with its blood. No fear. No doubt. Just pure predatory focus. Whatever species this belonged to, they were born hunters. Respected. But respect didn't mean mercy. The Dark Lord raised both hands, and massive chunks of cliff debris lifted into the air, dozens of tons of rock suspended by force telekinesis. With a pushing motion, he hurled them at the Predator like meteors. Dark Skykiller's biomask calculated trajectories instantaneously, but there were too many, coming too fast. The hunter fired its plasma caster at the largest chunks, fragmenting them mid-flight, while using acrobatic leaps to dodge others. A boulder the size of a land speeder caught Dark Skykiller mid-jump, slamming the Predator into the ground with crushing force. The bioarmor absorbed most of the impact, but systems flashed warning indicators. Structural damage to left arm exoskeleton. Cloaking field generator offline. Plasma caster reduced to 40% capacity. Vader approached, lightsaber raised for the killing blow. The hunt was over. The creature had fought well, but Dark Skykiller triggered its self-destruct sequence. Not fully, that would destroy everything within 100 meters, but enough to create a massive explosion in smoke screen. The Predator rolled sideways as the plasma charge detonated, filling the clearing with superheated gas and particulate matter that overwhelmed even Vader's helmet sensors. When the smoke cleared, the creature was gone. Blood trail leading into the jungle. But not enough blood for a fatal wound. It had escaped, wounded but alive. Vader stood in the destroyed clearing, surrounded by scorched earth and shattered rock. His armor was scored in 3 places, one deep enough that the internal systems reported minor damage to respiratory controls. The left gauntlet's grip sensor was fried from the electrified net. The Dark Lord deactivated his lightsaber. The creature had earned survival, for now. It fought with honor, never using cowardly tactics, always facing him directly when the moment came. A warrior's respect, however grudging. But the next encounter would be different. Vader had learned the creature's patterns, its technology, its tactics. The advantage of surprise was gone. "Run while you can, Hunter," Vader spoke to the jungle. "But know that I am coming. And when we meet again, there will be no escape." 3 kilometers away, Dark Skykiller collapsed against a tree, Biomask's medical systems working overtime to stabilize the injuries. The prey, no, the opponent, was everything the elders had promised. Strong, skilled, utterly ruthless. The invisible forces it commanded were unlike anything the Predator had encountered. But the hunter was not defeated. Yautja did not surrender. Did not flee from worthy prey. This was merely the first true engagement. Both warriors had tested each other, learned each other's capabilities. The next confrontation would determine the outcome. Dark Skykiller injected emergency healing compounds and activated the distress beacon to summon the dropship for medical treatment and equipment resupply. The hunt continued. And the Predator's honor demanded victory, no matter the cost. The wound healed faster than human physiology would allow. Within 18 hours, Dark Skykiller's advanced medical technology and natural Yautja regeneration had closed the plasma burns and repaired the damaged armor systems. The hunter sat in its dropship's medical bay, biomask removed, mandibles clicking thoughtfully as it reviewed combat footage from the confrontation. The holographic playback showed every moment of the battle in clinical detail. The prey's reflexes were augmented. Cybernetic enhancements allowing reaction times beyond organic capability. The invisible force it commanded could lift massive objects, crush opponents without touch, and deflect energy weapons. But there were patterns. The prey needed line of sight for most techniques. Required concentration for larger displays of power. And the mechanical breathing suggested dependency on life support systems, potential vulnerabilities. Dark Skykiller's fingers traced the damage to its shoulder armor where the prey's energy blade had scored deep gouges. The glowing red weapon was formidable, but it required the wielder to be in melee range. At distance, the prey was limited to throwing objects and deflecting shots. The Predator could adapt to this. Use hit-and-run tactics. Attack from maximum range. Never allow prolonged close combat where the energy blade could. The dropship's proximity alarm chirped. Multiple fast-moving contacts approaching from the planet's northern hemisphere. Dark Skykiller's mandibles spread in surprise. The biomask sensors identified the craft, 3 Comarque-class fighters, Mandalorian design, armed and approaching in attack formation. Not Imperial. Not Rebel. Third faction involvement was unexpected. The Predator activated defensive systems but didn't charge weapons. If these newcomers wanted battle, they would have already fired. This was reconnaissance. Or something else. The lead fighter's comm channel opened. A female voice, accented basic with the clipped cadence of a warrior, unidentified craft, you are in restricted airspace claimed by Clan Vizsla. Identify yourself or be destroyed. Dark Skykiller considered. The vocal mimicry system could replay captured phrases, but that would seem hostile. Instead, the hunter activated the universal translator and responded in its own clicking language, letting the system convert to electronic basic, hunter. No threat to your clan. Prey is elsewhere. Silence. Then, that armor. Those weapons. You are not from this galaxy. A statement, not a question. But you fight like one of us. We saw the battle in the clearing. Tracked the Imperial shuttle's departure. You faced the Dark Lord alone and survived. This earns conversation. Land your ship at the coordinates I'm transmitting. Come alone. We will speak as warriors. The transmission ended. Dark Skykiller reviewed the tactical situation. The Mandalorians had observed the confrontation with Vader, tracked both combatants afterward, and now offered parley. This species valued martial prowess. The intel the hunter had gathered mentioned their warrior culture, their reputation across the galaxy as elite fighters and bounty hunters. Meeting with them could provide valuable intelligence on the prey. Or it could be a trap. But Yautja did not fear traps. And understanding this galaxy's warrior cultures might provide advantage against the black-armored prey. Dark Skykiller input the coordinates and descended toward a remote plateau in Scarif's western mountain range. The Mandalorian fighters escorted at respectful distance, not threatening, but clearly ready to engage if the Predator made hostile moves. The landing site was defensible, high elevation, clear sight lines, no natural cover for ambush. Tactical minds had chosen it. The dropship touched down. Dark Skykiller checked weapon systems, plasma caster at 65% charge after repairs, combo stick secured, wrist blades functional, cloaking field generator back online. The hunter descended the ramp to find 15 Mandalorians arrayed in a semicircle, all armed, all wearing the distinctive armor that had made them legends. The woman who'd spoken on comms stood at the center, helmet adorned with red markings that suggested leadership. She removed her helmet, revealing a scarred face with eyes that had seen too many battles. I am Ursa Wren, of Clan Vizsla. You stand on ground we have claimed in the Empire's shadow. Normally, that would earn you a swift death. She gestured at the Predator's armor and weapons. But you are no ordinary trespasser. What are you called, Hunter? Dark Skykiller's biomask translated the clicking response, Dark Skykiller. Yautja. Hunter of worthy prey across many worlds. Yautja. Ursa tested the word. Not a species in Imperial records. Yet you possess technology that puts their advances to shame. And you hunt Darth Vader himself. She paced, circling the Predator while her clan maintained weapons at ready. Why? What drives a being from beyond our galaxy to challenge the Empire's greatest weapon? Honor, the Predator replied simply. The strongest prey. The ultimate test. Your Vader is undefeated warrior. Perfect trophy. Several Mandalorians shifted uncomfortably at the blunt statement. But Ursa laughed, sharp and bitter. Trophy. Yes, he would make quite the trophy. His skull would decorate any warrior's hull proudly. She stopped circling, facing Dark Skykiller directly. We Mandalorians understand the hunt. We understand honor in combat. And we understand that some prey deserves respect even as we kill them. You also hunt Vader? The Predator asked. Hunt? No. We survive him. The Empire crushed Mandalore, scattered our clans, forced many to serve as Imperial mercenaries. Vader personally executed 3 of our greatest warriors when they resisted. We are not strong enough to challenge him openly. Ursa's expression hardened. But that does not mean we do not dream of his death. Dark Skykiller's mandibles clicked in understanding. These warriors respected the prey but feared it. They had fought and lost. Their culture valued honor but recognized practical limitations. Interesting philosophy, different from Yautja, but comprehensible. I do not fear prey, the predator stated. I study. I adapt. I return stronger. You engaged him in direct combat and survived, one of the other Mandalorians spoke up, a male with blue armor markings. Our best warriors died in seconds against his force abilities. How did you withstand his attacks? Technology. Speed. No presence in mystical energy you call force. I am invisible to his sensing abilities in that way. Advantage. Ursa nodded slowly. That explains how you avoided the trap he set. We monitored Imperial communications. Vader returned to his flagship believing you would flee the system. He doesn't know you remained on Scarif. She studied the Predator carefully. You have resources and abilities we cannot match. We have knowledge of the Empire, of Vader's patterns and weaknesses. Perhaps, an exchange of information. Dark Skykiller considered. The Yautja code discouraged reliance on others during hunts, trophies must be earned alone. But information was not assistance. Understanding the prey better only made the hunt more worthy. What information do you offer? Vader's schedule. His patrol routes. The locations where he meditates. Where he is most isolated from Imperial support. Ursa gestured to one of her warriors, who produced a data pad. We have tracked him for months, looking for any opportunity. We are not strong enough to take it. But you. She paused. You might be. The data pad was offered. Dark Skykiller examined the display. Imperial ship manifests. Vader's recorded appearances across dozens of systems. Patterns of behavior that suggested the prey operated on predictable schedules when not actively pursuing missions. Valuable intelligence. But what did these Mandalorians want in return? What is your price? The Predator asked. Ursa smiled grimly. If you succeed in killing Vader, we want proof. A recording. Evidence that can be broadcast across Imperial networks to show that the supposedly unstoppable Dark Lord can be defeated. Inspire resistance. Give hope to those the Empire has crushed. And if I fail? Then we will honor your attempt. Bury you as a warrior, not leave your corpse for Imperial dissection. She replaced her helmet. We Mandalorians respect those who fight impossible battles. Win or lose, you will have earned that respect. Dark Skykiller processed the offer. The information would increase hunt efficiency. The price, providing proof of victory, aligned with Yautja tradition of claiming trophies as evidence. And these warriors understood honor codes similar to the Predator's own culture. Not allies, precisely, but mutual interests existed. Agreed, the hunter clicked. Information for proof. But I hunt alone. No assistance in combat. We would not dream of interfering, Ursa replied. This is your hunt. We merely provide context. She transmitted additional files to Dark Skykiller's biomask systems. Vader departs Scarif in 3 hours for the Mustafar system, his personal fortress world. He goes there to meditate after difficult campaigns. The fortress is heavily defended, but once inside, he isolates himself in meditation chambers. If you can infiltrate the fortress, you may find him alone. Mustafar. Dark Skykiller's biomass cross-referenced Imperial databases. Volcanic world. Extreme temperatures. Minimal Imperial garrison on the surface, the fortress itself served as primary defense. Difficult terrain but advantageous for a hunter. The heat would mask thermal signatures, and the environmental hazards would limit Imperial patrols. "Why do you give this information freely?" the Predator asked. "What prevents me from failing and leading the Empire to your location?" "Because you won't fail in a way that betrays us," Ursa said confidently. "Warriors like you, like us, we die before we break. And if you somehow succeed, the galaxy changes in ways that benefit every being fighting Imperial tyranny. It is a worthy risk." Dark Skykiller's mandibles clicked in what might have been respect. These Mandalorians were tactical thinkers. They used assets efficiently, took calculated risks, and understood that sometimes the greatest victories came from enabling others rather than direct action. Not so different from how Yautja clans coordinated hunts across star systems, sharing intelligence while maintaining individual honor. "Then I hunt on Mustafar," the Predator decided. 3 hours is sufficient time to prepare. The hunter turned toward its dropship, then paused. "If I return with trophy, I will bring proof to these coordinates. Your clan will see that the impossible prey can be defeated. May your hunt be successful, Dark Skykiller of the Yautja," Ursa replied formally. "And may Vader's skull rest well in your trophy room." The Mandalorians watched as the Predator's dropship lifted off, cloaking field activating once clear of the plateau. Ursa's lieutenant approached, voice skeptical. "You think it can actually kill Vader? One hunter against the Dark Lord on his own fortress world?" "I think," Ursa said slowly, "that we just witnessed something fight Vader hand to hand and survive. Something he cannot sense through the Force, something with technology beyond Imperial science. If anything in this galaxy can kill that monster, it might be that creature." She turned toward her own ship. "And if it fails, we learn valuable intelligence about Vader's defenses on Mustafar for our own future use. And if it succeeds?" Ursa's expression was unreadable behind her helmet. "Then we broadcast that recording across every rebel cell, every resistance network, every enslaved world. We show the galaxy that Vader is not invincible. That he can bleed. That he can die. And we watch as the Empire's symbol of fear crumbles." She paused. "Either way, we win something. That is how Mandalorians survive when we cannot fight openly." In the dropship, Dark Skykiller reviewed the Mustafar data. The fortress was designated Vader's Castle, in Imperial records, a towering obsidian structure built on volcanic rock, designed as both residence and meditation retreat. Schematics were limited, but thermal imaging showed significant power generation in the central tower. That would be where the prey rested, where its guard was lowest. The hunt was entering its final phase. No more testing. No more reconnaissance. The Predator would infiltrate the fortress, track Vader to his meditation chamber, and confront him in an environment of the prey's choosing. If the black-armored warrior was truly the ultimate trophy, this was where it would be proven. Dark Skykiller activated the ship's navigation systems, plotting a course to Mustafar. The Biomasks database compiled everything learned from the previous encounter. The prey's combat patterns, weapon capabilities, strengths, and weaknesses. The hunter reviewed the footage again, mandibles clicking as plans formed. 3 hours until Vader reached Mustafar. Time enough to repair the last damaged systems, calibrate weapons for volcanic environment, and prepare the final tools needed for the ultimate confrontation. The Yautja code was clear: the greatest trophies came from the worthiest prey, defeated in honorable combat on their own territory. Vader awaited. The hunt would conclude where darkness itself had been born, in the fires of Mustafar, where the black-armored prey had been forged into the galaxy's most feared warrior. And where, if the gods of the hunt smiled favorably, that legend would end at the hands of a predator from beyond the stars. The Executor entered Mustafar's orbit precisely on schedule. From the viewport of his private meditation chamber, Vader watched the volcanic world rotate beneath the super-star destroyer, rivers of lava carving glowing scars across blackened continents, ash clouds roiling in the upper atmosphere. This world had witnessed his transformation from Jedi to Sith, from Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader. It was fitting that he returned here to contemplate the strange hunter that had challenged him on Scarif. "My lord," Admiral Ozzel's voice crackled through the calm with barely concealed nervousness. "Your shuttle is prepared. The garrison on Mustafar reports no unusual activity. All security protocols are active. Increase orbital patrols," Vader ordered. "Deploy sensor buoys across the system's outer rim. If any unidentified craft enters Mustafar space, I want immediate notification." "You believe the creature will follow you here, my lord?" "I am certain of it." Vader turned from the viewport. "It marked me as prey. Such hunters do not abandon their quarry. They study. They adapt. And they strike when their target believes safety has been achieved. Should we increase the fortress garrison? Deploy additional?" "No." Vader's tone allowed no argument. "The hunter seeks me specifically. Additional troops would only provide more victims. I will face this threat alone." Ozzel wisely didn't protest further. "As you command, my lord. The shuttle awaits." Vader descended to the hangar bay, black cape billowing behind him. 30 stormtroopers stood at attention as he passed, the honor guard he would permit to escort him to the surface but no further. The Dark Lord had no intention of allowing witnesses to what would transpire in his fortress. Some battles were too personal, too revealing of one's true capabilities. The Emperor need not know every detail of how Vader dealt with threats. The shuttle descended through Mustafar's caustic atmosphere, heat shields glowing as they cut through superheated air. The fortress rose from a plateau of volcanic rock like a black talon clawing at the ash-choked sky. Massive obsidian walls surrounded the central tower, and turbolaser batteries tracked the shuttle's approach with automated precision. This was Vader's sanctuary, designed to his exact specifications. Impregnable from external assault, filled with dark side energy that amplified his connection to the Force. And yet, as the shuttle landed in the fortress courtyard, Vader felt uneasy. The dark side whispered warnings, showing him fragments of possible futures, blood on obsidian floors, plasma fire in shadowed corridors, mandibles clicking in the darkness. The hunter was coming. Perhaps was already here. "Remain with the shuttle," Vader commanded the stormtroopers as he disembarked. "Allow no one else to land. If I require assistance, I will summon you. My lord, standing orders require a security detail when." Vader raised one hand. The sergeant's words choked off as invisible pressure closed around his throat, not enough to kill, just enough to remind him who commanded here. "I do not repeat myself." The sergeant nodded frantically. Vader released him and strode toward the fortress entrance, lightsaber secure on his belt. The massive durasteel doors opened at his approach, recognizing his biosignature. Inside, the fortress was exactly as he'd left it, cold, dark, illuminated only by the red glow of lava channels visible through transparent floor sections. Meditation chambers occupied the upper levels. Armory and training rooms on the middle floors. And deep below, interrogation chambers where rebel prisoners had learned the cost of defying the Empire. Vader extended his senses through the Force, searching for the void that marked the hunter's presence. Nothing yet. But it would come. Hunters always returned to finish what they started. The Dark Lord ascended the central tower's spiral staircase, boots echoing on obsidian steps. Each level brought him higher above the lava flows, closer to the meditation chamber where he communed with the dark side and received the Emperor's instructions. The chamber was a sphere of polished black stone, suspended above a lava channel by repulsor fields. Inside, Vader could achieve perfect isolation, perfect focus. Perfect vulnerability. Vader paused at the chamber entrance. Was he walking into a trap of his own design? The hunter could be waiting inside, cloaked, ready to strike when the Dark Lord's defenses were lowered in meditation. But no, that wasn't how this creature operated. It had announced itself on Scarif. Challenged him openly. Whatever code governed its behavior, ambush from hiding seemed dishonorable. The Dark Lord entered the chamber and sealed the door. He would meditate as planned, strengthen his connection to the dark side, and when the hunter arrived, as it inevitably would, he would be ready. 3 kilometers above the fortress, Dark Skykiller's cloaked dropship maintained position in geosynchronous orbit. The Predator had arrived 2 hours before Vader's shuttle, using Mustafar's magnetic interference and volcanic emissions to mask its approach. The biomask's advanced sensors tracked every movement in the fortress, the prey entering alone, ascending the tower, sealing itself in the meditation chamber. Excellent. The prey had chosen to isolate itself. The Mandalorian intelligence had been accurate. Now came the infiltration. Dark Skykiller activated the dropship's orbital descent protocol, angling for a landing site on the fortress's blind side, a rocky outcropping 1,500 meters from the main structure where thermal signatures from lava flows would obscure the ship's heat signature. The descent was controlled chaos, atmospheric friction screaming against the hull as the Predator compensated for Mustafar's violent air currents. The ship touched down on superheated rock. Dark Skykiller emerged into hell itself. The temperature outside registered 340 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt standard armor plating. But Yautja technology was designed for extreme environments. The biosuit's cooling systems activated, maintaining survivable internal temperature. The biomask filtered toxic gases and provided clear vision through the ash-laden air. The fortress loomed in the distance, a black monument to the prey's power. Dark Skykiller studied the defenses. Automated turrets tracking motion patterns, energy shields over vulnerable access points, patrol droids moving in predictable circuits. Imperial security was formidable by this galaxy's standards. But the Predator had infiltrated worse. The hunter activated full cloaking and began the approach. Each step was calculated to avoid seismic sensors buried in the volcanic rock. The plasma caster remained powered down, any energy discharge would alert the fortress systems. This infiltration required stealth, patience, and precision. The prey must not know death approached until the final moment. Dark Skykiller reached the fortress walls and deployed magnetic climbing claws. The ascent was vertical, 50 meters of sheer obsidian, but the Predator's strength made it manageable. At the top, automated turrets swept past, their targeting algorithms detecting nothing through the cloaking field. The hunter dropped silently into the courtyard where the Imperial shuttle sat, stormtroopers visible through the viewport. The Predator considered eliminating them but decided against it. Unnecessary deaths would alert the prey prematurely. Better to leave them ignorant until the hunt concluded. The fortress entrance was sealed, but the biomask scanners identified a ventilation shaft, standard weakness in all fortified structures. Dark Skykiller pried open the grating with minimal noise and crawled into darkness. The shaft was narrow, barely wide enough for the Predator's bulk, but it led upward into the tower's interior. For 20 minutes, Dark Skykiller navigated the fortress's internal structure, following thermal signatures and structural schematics the biomask had mapped from external scans. The fortress was a maze of corridors and chambers, all designed to confuse intruders. But the hunter was patient. The prey's location was known, the meditation chamber at the tower's apex. All paths eventually led there. The Predator emerged from the ventilation system into a corridor on the tower's 5th level. Below, lava flows were visible through transparent floor sections. Above, the spiral staircase leading to the meditation chamber. Dark Skykiller ascended silently, wrist blades extended, every sense alert for traps or automated defenses. The chamber door was sealed. The biomask scanners detected a single life form inside, mechanically augmented, matching the prey's thermal signature. Vader was inside, alone, likely in deep meditation. The perfect moment to strike. But as Dark Skykiller prepared to breach the door, the hunter hesitated. The prey had isolated itself deliberately. Had known the predator would come. This was either supreme confidence or a trap. Perhaps both. The Yautja code was clear: worthy prey deserved honorable confrontation. To strike while the prey was defenseless in meditation would taint the trophy, make the kill meaningless. Dark Skykiller had tracked Vader across systems, studied his combat prowess, earned the right to face him at full strength. The Predator deactivated its cloaking field and triggered the door controls. The chamber would be sealed from inside, but the biomask had already sliced the security protocols. The door hissed open, revealing the black sphere of the meditation chamber suspended above churning lava. And inside, sitting in a meditation pose with his back to the entrance, was Darth Vader. The Dark Lord's mechanical breathing filled the chamber. He didn't turn, didn't react to the door opening. But his voice cut through the air like a blade. "You came. I knew you would." Hunters cannot resist the lure of isolated prey. Dark Skykiller entered the chamber, door sealing behind. "You expected me. Good. Prey that prepares makes the hunt worthy. Prey." Vader stood slowly, turning to face the Predator. His mask was removed, a rare sight, revealing the scarred, pale face beneath, the cybernetic implants that kept him alive, the yellow Sith eyes burning with dark side power. "You still believe you are the hunter here? How naive." The Dark Lord's lightsaber ignited, crimson blade casting hellish light across the chamber. "I lured you to this place, hunter. To my fortress. My domain. Where the dark side is strongest and I am at my peak. You walked into the trap believing you were springing one." Dark Skykiller's mandibles clicked, not in fear, but in excitement. The prey had turned the tables, transformed hunted into hunter. Perfect. This was the challenge the Yautja lived for, the moment when prey revealed it was predator, when the hunt became true combat between equals. "Then we both hunt," the predator responded. "And the strongest will claim the trophy." "No," Vader corrected, his scarred face twisting into something between a smile and a snarl. "Only one of us leaves this chamber alive. And it will not be you." The temperature in the meditation chamber dropped despite the lava flowing beneath. Dark side energy coalesced around Vader like invisible armor, amplifying his power to levels the Predator hadn't witnessed on Scarif. This was the prey at full strength, unleashed in his own domain. The true test. Dark Skykiller raised its plasma caster. Vader raised his hand. Both warriors struck simultaneously, plasma bolt and force lightning converging in the center of the chamber, energy meeting energy in an explosion of light and fury that announced the final phase of the hunt had begun. Outside, the stormtroopers in the shuttle heard the explosion echo from the tower. The sergeant reached for his comlink to report, but hesitated. Lord Vader had ordered no interference. Whatever transpired in that chamber, they were not to intervene. The sergeant could only watch the tower and pray to whatever gods protected stormtroopers that their master emerged victorious. Because if Darth Vader could fall, what hope did the rest of them have? The meditation chamber became an arena of chaos. Vader's force lightning arced through the air in crackling streams of blue-white energy, meeting Dark Skykiller's plasma caster fire in midair explosions that scorched the obsidian walls. The Predator rolled sideways, firing 3 rapid shots while deploying the smart disc with its free hand. Vader deflected 2 plasma bolts with his lightsaber and caught the third with the force, redirecting it into the chamber's support structure. The smart disc spun through the air in a programmed attack pattern, guided by the biomask's targeting systems. But Vader seized it with the force mid-flight and crushed it, the metal disc compressing into a ball of useless scrap that clattered to the floor. The Dark Lord's yellow eyes tracked the Predator's movement with inhuman focus. Your technology is impressive, Vader said, advancing with lightsaber raised. But against the Force, it is merely adequate. Dark Skykiller fired the net gun. The electrified mesh deployed at point-blank range, wrapping around Vader's torso. The electrical charge would have killed a normal being instantly. But Vader's cybernetic systems absorbed most of the current, and with a gesture, he tore the net apart using force strength. Molten fragments scattered across the floor. The Predator closed distance, wrist blades extending. Close combat, where technology met the Prey's energy blade. Dark Skykiller struck with precision refined over hundreds of hunts, low slash at mechanical legs, high thrust at exposed neck joint, spinning kick to create separation. Vader's lightsaber moved in defensive forms, each parry precise, each counterattack deadly. The wrist blade sparked against the plasma blade, exotic alloys tested against impossible heat. For 40 seconds they traded blows in brutal melee. The Predator's strength was superhuman, but Vader's force-augmented reflexes compensated. The wrist blade scored hits on Vader's chest plate, cutting through layers of armor. The lightsaber burned deep gouges into Dark Skykiller's bioarmor, overheating systems and searing flesh beneath. Both warriors bled, green luminescent blood mixing with human crimson on the obsidian floor. Vader unleashed a devastating force push. Dark Skykiller flew backward, slamming into the chamber wall with enough force to crack the obsidian. The biomask systems flashed critical warnings, structural damage to chest armor, internal bleeding detected, plasma caster offline. The Predator struggled to rise as Vader approached, lightsaber raised for a finishing blow. You fought well, Vader acknowledged. But the dark side is power you cannot comprehend. Your clan will never know what became of you. Your trophies will gather dust unclaimed. And I will add your skull to my own collection as a reminder that nothing in this galaxy, or any other, can challenge a Sith Lord. Dark Skykiller's hand moved to the self-destruct device. If death was inevitable, better to deny the Prey victory and take them both into darkness. But the hunter's mandibles clicked in sudden realization. The Prey was monologuing, savoring victory, giving precious seconds for. The Predator triggered the wrist-mounted grappling hook, not at Vader, but at the chamber's ceiling. The hook anchored in the support structure, and Dark Skykiller retracted at maximum speed, pulling itself upward and out of lightsaber range. Vader's blade cut through empty air where the Predator had been moments before. From the elevated position, Dark Skykiller deployed its last resort weapon, the Plasmacaster's overload mode. The damaged weapon couldn't fire normal bolts, but it could dump its entire remaining power core in one massive discharge. The Predator aimed not at Vader, but at the chamber's transparent floor section directly above the lava flow. Vader sensed the danger too late. The overloaded Plasmacaster fired, and the reinforced transparasteel exploded in a shower of molten fragments. The chamber floor gave way, and both combatants plunged toward the lava channel 15 meters below. Dark Skykiller's grappling hook saved it, the line went taut, arresting the fall. The Predator swung sideways, slamming into the wall but avoiding the lava. Vader used the force to slow his own descent, landing on a narrow ledge of volcanic rock jutting from the chamber wall. Below, lava churned and roiled, superheated to temperatures that would vaporize even Mandalorian armor. The two warriors faced each other across 3 meters of empty air, both wounded, both breathing heavily. The meditation chamber was destroyed, half the floor gone, support structure compromised, smoke and heat rising from the lava below. Clever, Vader admitted. You sacrifice your own weapon to change the battlefield. A warrior's tactic. The hunt adapts, Dark Skykiller responded through ragged breaths. Prey is strong. But not invincible. Vader extended both hands. The force responded to his will, and chunks of the destroyed chamber began to orbit around him. Shards of obsidian, fragments of transparasteel, pieces of melted metal. With a pushing gesture, he hurled them at the Predator like shrapnel. Dark Skykiller swung on the grappling line, avoiding most projectiles, but several struck home. The bioarmor cracked further. The biomask's left lens shattered. Green blood flowed more freely. The Predator released the grappling hook and dropped, not into the lava, but onto another ledge lower on the wall. From here, it could see the tower's interior through the destroyed floor, multiple levels of corridors and chambers, all vulnerable now that the meditation chamber's defenses were breached. An idea formed. Dark Skykiller pulled a thermal charge from its equipment belt, one of 3 remaining. Not powerful enough to kill the prey directly, but sufficient to destabilize the already compromised tower structure. The Predator armed the charge and threw it not at Vader, but at the support column connecting the meditation chamber to the level below. Vader sensed the danger. No. The thermal charge detonated. The support column exploded in a bloom of superheated plasma. The entire meditation chamber groaned, tilted, and began to collapse. Vader leaped from his ledge using force-enhanced jump, sailing through the air toward an intact section of corridor. Dark Skykiller deployed the combo stick as an anchor, jamming it into the wall and using it to swing toward the opposite corridor. The meditation chamber fell. 2 tons of obsidian, metal, and broken technology crashed down through multiple levels of the tower, smashing through floors and support structures. The entire fortress shuddered from the impact. Alarms blared throughout the facility as automated systems detected catastrophic structural damage. In the shuttle outside, the stormtroopers felt the fortress shake. "Sir," one trooper addressed the sergeant. "Should we investigate? Lord Vader may require." He ordered no interference, the sergeant repeated, though his voice betrayed doubt. "We hold position unless we receive direct orders otherwise." But secretly, the sergeant activated his helmet recorder. If Lord Vader died here, the Emperor would demand to know what happened. And if this creature somehow killed the Dark Lord, the Empire needed intelligence on how it was accomplished. Inside the fortress, Vader landed in a 3rd-level corridor, cape billowing as he rose to full height. Dust and debris rained around him, but the Dark Lord was unharmed. Through the Force, he tracked the Predator's location, 2 levels above, moving rapidly through damaged corridors. The creature was retreating, but not fleeing. It was repositioning. "You cannot run forever," Vader called out, voice amplified through the tower's acoustics. "This fortress is my domain. Every corridor leads back to me." Dark Skykiller didn't respond. The hunter was moving with purpose, seeking specific terrain. The biomask scans had identified the fortress's armory 2 levels above, Imperial weapons cache that might provide useful tools. And more importantly, a large open chamber where close-quarters advantage would be neutralized. The Predator reached the armory entrance and blasted the door with a thermal charge. Inside, racks of blaster rifles, thermal detonators, ammunition, and, most interesting, experimental weapons the Empire was developing. Dark Skykiller grabbed several thermal detonators and a heavy blaster cannon, normally requiring 2 humans to operate but manageable for Yautja strength. Vader was ascending the tower, using the Force to leap between damaged levels. The Dark Lord had abandoned subtlety. Raw power emanated from him in waves, the dark side responding to his rage and determination. The hunter had humiliated him, destroyed his meditation chamber, turned his own fortress into a weapon against him. This ended now. Dark Skykiller set the trap. For thermal detonators placed at strategic points in the corridor leading to the armory. The heavy blaster cannon positioned in the center of the large chamber, aimed at the entrance. The Predator's remaining weapons checked and ready. This would be the final stand. No more running. No more tactical retreats. Here, the hunt would conclude. Vader entered the corridor. Immediately, his Force senses screamed warning. The thermal detonators were obvious, clumsy even. The Dark Lord raised both hands and used the Force to lift all 4 devices simultaneously, suspending them in midair, then crushing them into inert scrap. Child's play. He entered the armory chamber, and the heavy blaster cannon opened fire. But Vader's lightsaber was already moving, deflecting bolt after bolt in a display of defensive mastery that would have awed the Jedi Masters of old. The barrage continued for 8 seconds before the cannon overheated and shut down. When the smoke cleared, Vader stood unharmed. "That's your plan?" Vader asked. "Imperial weapons you barely know how to operate?" Dark Skykiller stepped from behind the disabled cannon, wrist blades extended. "No. That was distraction." The Predator had used the heavy blaster barrage to position itself perfectly, between Vader and the only exit. And while the Dark Lord's attention was on deflecting blaster fire, the Hunter had attached its final thermal charge to the chamber's ceiling support structure. The detonator was active, counting down. Vader sensed it too late. The charge exploded, and the ceiling collapsed. Tons of obsidian and metal rained down on both combatants. The Dark Lord created a force barrier, holding back the debris through sheer willpower. Dark Skykiller dove toward the exit, armor taking punishment from falling rubble but momentum carrying it through. The ceiling's collapse triggered a chain reaction. The already damaged tower structure couldn't withstand additional stress. Support beams buckled. Power conduits ruptured. Emergency systems activated as the fortress began a catastrophic failure sequence. Through the Force, Vader felt his sanctuary dying around him. Unacceptable. This fortress was built from his pain, his transformation, his power. It would not fall because of one Hunter from beyond the stars. Vader extended his consciousness through the entire structure, using the Force to hold failing support beams, to redirect collapsing sections, to maintain structural integrity through sheer will. The fortress stabilized. But the effort cost him. Concentration divided, defenses lowered for precious seconds. And in those seconds, Dark Skykiller struck. The Predator's combo stick extended to full length and thrust forward with every ounce of Yautja strength behind it. The spear point punched through Vader's chest plate, through cybernetic components, embedding itself in the wall behind. The Dark Lord gasped, as much as his damaged lungs allowed, as pain receptors fired throughout his body. First blood, Dark Skykiller's biomask translated. Trophy, earned. But Vader's hand shot out, gripping the Predator's wrist with crushing force-enhanced strength. "You misunderstand, Hunter. I have bled before. Pain is an old companion. It only makes me stronger." Dark side energy erupted from Vader's body in a wave of pure malevolent power. Dark Skykiller was hurled backward, slamming through an armory wall into the corridor beyond. The combo stick remained embedded in Vader's chest. The Dark Lord gripped it with both hands and pulled it free, green blood from the Predator still staining its point mixed with his own crimson. Vader examined the weapon. Well crafted. Ancient design, refined over millennia. Worthy of respect. He ignited his lightsaber and cut the combo stick in half, destroying it. "Your trophy is denied. As will be your life." The Dark Lord advanced through the hole in the wall. Dark Skykiller was rising slowly, bioarmor cracked and failing, internal injuries evident in labored breathing. The Hunter had given everything, every weapon, every tactic, every ounce of strength. And it wasn't enough. "You are defeated," Vader stated. "But you fought with honor. For that, I offer quick death. Kneel, and I will end it painlessly." Dark Skykiller's mandibles clicked, not in surrender, but in defiant laughter. "Yautja, do not kneel. We die, as we lived. Standing." The Predator charged one final time, wrist blades extended, roaring a challenge in its clicking language that needed no translation. Vader met the charge, lightsaber raised. Their final clash lasted 3 seconds, wrist blades against plasma blade, strength against force, honor against dark side fury. When it ended, Dark Skykiller stood frozen, Vader's lightsaber piercing its chest where the armor was most damaged. The biomask systems went dark. The hunter's roar faded to silence. "You were worthy prey," Vader said quietly. "I respect that. But in this galaxy, the Force is supreme. And nothing, no technology, no honor, no warrior code, can overcome it." He withdrew the lightsaber. Dark Skykiller collapsed to the corridor floor, green blood pooling beneath the body. The hunt was over. Vader had won. But as he turned away, the Predator's hand moved weakly to its wrist computer, activating one final protocol. The self-destruct sequence initiated, computer voice counting down in Yautja language. Vader's eyes widened behind his mask. Clever, Vader had 5 seconds. The Predator's self-destruct sequence was counting down in a language the Dark Lord didn't understand, but the energy signature building in the device was unmistakable, enough explosive power to vaporize everything within a 100-meter radius. The fortress, the tower, and Vader himself if he remained. The Dark Lord used the Force to leap backward through 3 walls, putting distance between himself and the dying hunter. He sprinted down the corridor toward the tower's spiral staircase, cape streaming behind him, chest wound bleeding but irrelevant compared to escaping the blast radius. Around him, the fortress groaned, already damaged structure unable to withstand one more shock. 3 seconds. Vader reached the staircase and used force-enhanced jumps to descend multiple levels per leap. His mechanical breathing was ragged, damaged respiratory system struggling to maintain oxygen flow. But pain was fuel for the dark side. He channeled it, let it strengthen his resolve, his speed, his power. 2 seconds. Vader burst through the fortress's main entrance into the courtyard. The Imperial shuttle was still there, stormtroopers visible through the viewport. They saw him emerge, bloodied and staggering, and several started toward him. "Stay back," he commanded through the Force and comlink simultaneously. 1 second. The top of the tower exploded. Not a conventional explosion. Something far more powerful, plasma and energy cascading outward in a sphere of annihilation that consumed the tower's upper levels. The shockwave hit like a physical wall, slamming Vader to the ground and sending stormtroopers flying. The meditation chamber, armory, and 3 levels below simply ceased to exist, replaced by a fireball visible from orbit. Debris rained from the sky, massive chunks of obsidian crashing into the courtyard, smaller fragments creating lethal shrapnel. Vader rolled to his feet and created a force barrier, shielding himself and the nearby shuttle from the worst of it. The effort sent pain lancing through his wounded chest, but he held the barrier until the debris storm subsided. When the smoke cleared, half of Vader's tower was gone. The fortress was a ruin, its upper structure collapsed into jagged remnants. Fires burned throughout what remained, and the lava channels below had been exposed, filling the air with superheated gas. The meditation chamber where Vader had sought peace and communed with the dark side existed only in memory. The Dark Lord stood in the ruined courtyard, surrounded by destruction, covered in blood and dust. The stormtroopers emerged from the shuttle cautiously, weapons ready but unsure what threat remained. Their sergeant approached, voice shaking, "My lord, are you, what happened?" "The intruder is dead," Vader stated flatly. "Alert Admiral Ozzel. Tell him to begin sweeping the system for any additional hostile craft. The threat has been neutralized, but I want confirmation that this creature operated alone." "Yes, my lord." "Should we search the ruins for the body?" Vader looked at the tower's remains. The upper levels were obliterated, nothing could have survived that blast. There will be nothing left to find. The intruder triggered a self-destruct device rather than face capture. Disintegrated itself completely. It was true. Dark Skykiller's body had been vaporized in the plasma explosion. No remains. No evidence of what it was, where it came from, or how it had infiltrated the fortress. The perfect warrior's death, taking the mystery to oblivion rather than allowing the enemy to learn from examination. But something in Vader's chest, beyond the physical wound, felt hollow. The hunter had challenged him at the height of his power, in his own fortress, and had come within inches of victory. Only the Dark Lord's mastery of the Force had tipped the balance. If the creature had possessed even basic Force sensitivity, or if Vader had been less experienced, the outcome might have been different. Troubling. The Emperor taught that the dark side made Sith invincible. But this hunter from beyond the galaxy had proven that technology and skill could challenge even a Sith Lord. What other threats lurked beyond the known galaxy? What other predators watched the Empire from the void between stars? My lord, the sergeant interrupted his thoughts. We found something. You should see this. Vader followed to the courtyard's edge where the stormtroopers had discovered an anomaly. On a section of intact wall, carved with precision despite the surrounding destruction, was a symbol, the same stylized skull within a triangle that the Predator had left on Scarif. But below it, two new additions. A tally mark and coordinates in Orbesh numerals. Vader studied the markings. The coordinates pointed to a location in the outer rim, on the edge of known space. And the tally mark, the hunter had marked him. Designated him as worthy but unfinished prey. This wasn't a singular hunt, it was part of a tradition, a code. Other hunters might follow. Erase this, Vader commanded. I want no record of these markings. Nothing that might attract additional attention. But even as the stormtroopers began cutting away the section of wall, Vader knew the truth, somewhere in the galaxy, word would spread. The Mandalorians would know. Rebels would hear rumors. Bounty hunters would trade stories of something that had challenged Darth Vader and survived long enough to force him to flee an explosion. The myth of his invincibility had suffered its first crack. Aboard the cloaked dropship 1,500 meters from the fortress, Dark Skykiller watched the tower burn. The Predator wasn't dead, the self-destruct had been a decoy device, designed to simulate the hunter's demise while the real self-destruct remained inactive. A trick learned from hunts where prey needed to believe they'd won in order to lower their guard. But the victory was hollow. Dark Skykiller had failed. The ultimate prey still lived. The trophy remained unclaimed. Every weapon had been expended, every tactic exhausted, and it hadn't been enough. The prey's invisible force was simply too powerful, too versatile. In a fair fight, the Predator couldn't win. The biomask's recording systems had captured everything, every moment of the battle, every technique the prey employed, every weakness potentially exploitable. This data would return to the Yautja homeworld, where elders would study it and perhaps send a more experienced hunter. Or perhaps they would designate this prey as impossible, too dangerous for any single hunter. Dark Skykiller's injuries were severe. 3 ribs cracked, internal bleeding, second-degree burns across 40% of the body, bioarmor destroyed beyond field repair. The hunter needed medical attention that only the clan's ship could provide. The hunt on Mustafar was over. But the Predator had made a promise to the Mandalorians. Proof of confrontation. Evidence that Vader could be challenged. The biomask had recorded everything. The battle in the meditation chamber, the tower's destruction, Vader wounded and bleeding. It wasn't proof of death, but it was proof of vulnerability. Dark Skykiller activated the dropship's navigation systems, plotting a course back to Scarif where Clan Vizsla maintained their outpost. The recording would be delivered as promised. Then the hunter would depart this galaxy, wounds nursed and honor, complicated. By Yautja standards, this hunt was a failure. The prey lived. The trophy was denied. But by this galaxy's standards, merely surviving combat with Darth Vader was an achievement worth respect. The Predator had fought the Dark Lord to a standstill, destroyed his fortress, and forced him to flee an explosion. Few beings in this galaxy could claim as much. As the dropship lifted off, cloaking field active, Dark Skykiller took one last look at the burning tower. Worthy prey, the hunter clicked to itself. Perhaps, too worthy. The ship accelerated toward orbit, leaving Mustafar's volcanic hell behind. In the ruins of the fortress, Vader watched an empty sky and wondered if the void truly felt empty, or if invisible eyes still watched from beyond the stars. On the Executor in high orbit, Admiral Ozzel received Vader's report with barely concealed relief. "My lord, I'm pleased you survived. Should we deploy search teams to locate the intruder's vessel? If it had a ship." "The ship is likely already gone," Vader interrupted. "These hunters are not fools. It would have positioned an escape vehicle beyond our sensor range. By the time we could organize a search pattern, it will be in hyperspace." "Then, it's over, my lord." Vader considered. The hunter was likely wounded, possibly dying. Its mission failed, its weapons exhausted. Logic suggested it would retreat, lick its wounds, perhaps return to whatever distant world spawned it. The threat was neutralized. But something in the Force whispered disagreement. The dark side showed him futures clouded and uncertain, not the clarity of victory, but the murk of unfinished business. The hunter might return. Others of its kind might follow. Or the rebels might somehow learn of this encounter and realize that Vader could be challenged by sufficient force and cunning. "Increase security protocols across all Imperial installations," Vader ordered. "I want reports of any unusual activity, any unidentified craft, any technology that doesn't match known specifications. If this creature was part of a larger invasion force, we must be prepared." "Invasion, my lord? You believe there are more of them?" "I believe," Vader said slowly, "that the galaxy is larger than the Empire's borders. And that arrogance about our supremacy is a vulnerability waiting to be exploited. This creature proved that Imperial defenses can be breached, that even a Sith Lord can be wounded. We would be fools not to learn from this." It was the closest Vader had ever come to admitting weakness. Ozzel wisely didn't comment on it. "I will implement the new protocols immediately, my lord." "And, shall I inform the Emperor of these events?" Silence stretched for 10 seconds. "Then, no. The Emperor has more pressing concerns than a single intruder who is now either dead or fled. I will handle this matter personally. You will make no official reports beyond, minor incident at Mustafar Fortress, perpetrator neutralized. Is that clear?" "Crystal clear, my lord." The communication ended. Vader stood alone in the fortress ruins, surrounded by stormtroopers who kept respectful distance. His chest wound throbbed despite Bacta treatment. The meditation chamber's destruction had severed a connection to the dark side that he'd spent years cultivating. And somewhere in his mind, the part that remembered being Anakin Skywalker, Jedi Knight, a small voice whispered that perhaps the Force wasn't as supreme as the Sith believed. He crushed that voice immediately. Doubt was the path to weakness. The Predator had been strong, yes. But it had lost. That was all that mattered. Yet as Vader boarded the shuttle for transport back to the Executor, he found himself scanning the skies one more time, remote Scarif searching for thermal distortions maintained their hidden signatures. Ursa Wren received an encrypted transmission. The threat was over. The coordinates were correct, so why did he feel like the Yautja hunter? The signal was brief, just a data packet containing compressed video files. No message. No explanation. Ursa downloaded the files to an isolated datapad, standard security protocol when dealing with unknown sources. What appeared on the screen made her breath catch. Combat footage, crystal clear despite the violence, showing Dark Skykiller and Darth Vader engaged in brutal melee. The meditation chamber. The tower's destruction. Vader wounded and bleeding, forced to flee an explosion. And the Predator's sacrifice, the apparent self-destruct that had obliterated the tower's upper levels. By the ancestors, Ursa whispered. Her lieutenant approached, drawn by her tone. What is it? The hunter delivered. Ursa replayed the footage showing Vader's chest plate pierced by the combo stick, green and red blood mixing. It actually wounded him. Forced the Dark Lord to retreat. And recorded everything. But did it survive? The explosion. Unknown. Ursa studied the footage timestamp, it ended moments before the detonation. But this recording exists, which means someone uploaded it. Either the hunter survived, or its ship's automated systems transmitted the data posthumously. Either way, we have what we need. Ursa's lieutenant understood immediately. Proof that Vader can be hurt. Can be challenged. More than that. We have his combat patterns, his force techniques, his limitations. Ursa copied the files to multiple secure locations. Every rebel cell, every resistance group, every being fighting the Empire needs to see this. They need to know the unstoppable Dark Lord has weaknesses. The Empire will hunt anyone who distributes this footage. Vader will make it a priority. Let him try. Ursa's expression was fierce. We Mandalorians have survived worse than Imperial persecution. And if distributing this footage saves even one world from Vader's wrath, it's worth the risk. Within hours, encrypted copies of the footage began spreading through the galactic underworld. Smuggler networks. Rebel intelligence channels. Independent news sources that operated beyond Imperial censorship. The Empire's vast monitoring systems detected the data spreading but couldn't contain it. Encryption was too sophisticated, distribution too decentralized. On Yavin 4, Mon Mothma and General Dodonna reviewed the footage with a mix of awe and strategic interest. Remarkable, Dodonna murmured. This creature fought Vader hand-to-hand. Used tactics and technology we've never seen. And survived long enough to force him into retreat. The question is, Mon Mothma said carefully, what does this mean for the rebellion? Should we be inspired that Vader can be wounded? Or terrified that something this dangerous is now loose in the galaxy? Both, probably. Dodonna rewound to the moment when Dark Skykiller's wrist blade struck Vader's armor. But the tactical intelligence here is invaluable. Look, Vader's chest plate has weak points at the joints. His force abilities require concentration. And sufficient firepower can overwhelm even his defenses. This creature figured out what we've been struggling to understand for years. Mon Mothma nodded slowly. Distribute this to all rebel cells. Classification, Omega-level intelligence. Our forces need to know that Vader is mortal. That proper tactics and sufficient force can hurt him. She paused. But also warn them, this footage shows what it takes to wound him. Most of our soldiers won't have these capabilities. They shouldn't attempt confrontation unless absolutely necessary. The footage's impact rippled across the galaxy. On Coruscant, Imperial intelligence officers worked frantically to suppress it, but the damage was done. Stormtroopers who'd believed Vader invincible now whispered about the mysterious hunter who'd destroyed his fortress. Rebels who'd feared him as an unstoppable demon now saw bleeding flesh beneath the armor. And on distant worlds beyond the Outer Rim, other beings took notice. Criminal syndicates saw opportunity. If one hunter could challenge Vader, perhaps others could finish the job. Bounty hunters studied the footage for weaknesses to exploit. And somewhere in the unknown regions, where ancient civilizations watched the galaxy's conflicts with detached interest, the footage was analyzed and filed away as data points suggesting the Galactic Empire might not be as supreme as it claimed. But the most significant impact was psychological. Fear was the Empire's greatest weapon, the belief that resistance was futile, that Vader was an unstoppable force of nature. The footage cracked that belief. Not shattered, not destroyed, but cracked. And cracks, given time and pressure, could spread. Aboard the Executor, Vader stood in his private chamber reviewing intelligence reports. The footage was everywhere. His agents had traced its origin to Mandalorian networks, but the damage was done. Across the galaxy, beings were watching him bleed, watching him flee, watching him struggle against an opponent they'd never seen before. "My lord," Ozzel's voice crackled through the comm, "we've intercepted rebel transmissions discussing the footage. They're analyzing your combat patterns, identifying." "I am aware, Admiral." Vader's mechanical breathing filled the chamber. "Increase interrogation efforts on captured rebels. I want to know if they have any information about the Hunter's origin or if additional incursions are planned." "Yes, my lord." "And, the Emperor has requested your presence on Coruscant. He has seen the footage and wishes to discuss these events personally." Vader's hands clenched. He had hoped to keep this incident contained, handle it quietly without Imperial attention. But Palpatine missed nothing. The Emperor would have questions. Would probe for weakness. Would assess whether his apprentice remained worthy. "Inform the Emperor I will arrive within the day. Executor will make for Coruscant immediately." The communication ended. Vader turned to the viewport where hyperspace streamed past in blue-white lines. The Hunter was gone, sensors had detected no trace of its vessel after leaving Mustafar. But its impact remained, a ghost haunting the Empire's corridors and the Dark Lord's thoughts. He had won the confrontation. The Hunter had fled or died. By any measure, Vader had triumphed. So why did victory feel so hollow? Because something had changed. The myth of invincibility was damaged. Rebels would be emboldened. Officers would question. And the Emperor would see weakness where Vader needed to project strength. All because one Hunter from beyond the stars had proven that even Sith Lords could bleed. Vader accessed the footage himself, studying it with the tactical eye of a warrior. The Predator had fought brilliantly. Adapting to the Force, using technology creatively, never surrendering despite impossible odds. In another life, Vader might have respected such an opponent. Might have wished to recruit rather than destroy. But that was Anakin Skywalker's thinking. Vader had no such sentiments. The creature had challenged Imperial authority and paid the price. If others of its kind came, they would meet the same fate. And this time, Vader would be prepared. No more surprises. No more close calls. The Dark Lord began composing new training protocols for Imperial forces. Scenarios involving cloaked opponents. Tactics against plasma weapons. Countermeasures for exotic technology. If the Predators were a species, if they had a culture of hunting challenges, then the Empire needed to be ready for the next one. But in the quiet moments between hyperspace jumps, Vader found himself wondering, had the Hunter survived? Was it out there somewhere, nursing wounds and plotting return? Or had it truly died in that explosion, leaving only the footage as its legacy? The Force provided no answers. Only the void where the Hunter's presence should have been, that frustrating absence that had defined the entire confrontation. Whatever the Yautja were, they existed outside the Force's sight. Which meant they could return without warning, strike without precognition, and challenge the Sith's supposed supremacy over reality itself. On the third day after escaping Mustafar, Dark Skykiller's dropship limped into the Yautja mothership's hangar bay. The massive vessel hung in interstellar space, far beyond any charted system, cloaked and waiting. As the dropship's ramp lowered, 3 Elder Hunters approached, their scarred armor and elaborate trophies marking them as the expedition's leaders. Dark Skykiller descended the ramp slowly, every movement pained. The bioarmor was destroyed, held together by emergency patches. Green blood stained the hunter's body despite medical treatment. But the predator's mandibles clicked in greeting, and the data crystal containing the battle footage was offered with pride. The eldest hunter, called Ancient Flame in the Yautja language, examined the crystal, then Dark Skykiller's wounds. The elder's mandibles clicked a question: the prey lives. Yes, Dark Skykiller admitted through the pain. Too strong. Invisible force, too powerful. I gave everything. It was not enough. Silence among the elders. Then Ancient Flame's mandibles spread in what might have been satisfaction. You gave everything. You survived combat with prey that kills lesser beings instantly. You forced it to flee, to bleed, to fear. This is not failure, young hunter. This is the highest honor, finding prey so worthy that even defeat teaches value. The second elder clicked agreement. The prey marked you as worthy but incomplete. This means you may return, when healed and wiser, to finish the hunt. Such prey is rare. Most die too easily. Dark Skykiller's mandibles clicked surprise. Return? I failed. The trophy is unclaimed. The trophy is not yet claimed, Ancient Flame corrected. There is difference. Your hunt earned the right to continue. But first, you heal. You study the recordings. You learn what worked and what failed. And when you are ready, if you still wish to pursue, you return with knowledge and experience. The third elder stepped forward, examining Dark Skykiller's damaged equipment. Your technology was insufficient. The prey's energy blade cut through standard armor. Its invisible force overcame conventional tactics. If you return, you need specialized equipment. Armor forged from materials resistant to plasma weapons. Weapons that can strike from greater distance. Perhaps. The elder clicked thoughtfully. Perhaps collaboration with other hunters. The prey is worthy of a pack hunt. Dark Skykiller's mandibles clicked negatively. No. This prey is mine. I marked it. I earned first challenge right. Then you also earned the consequences of challenging impossible prey, Ancient Flame said firmly. Pride serves the hunt only when tempered with wisdom. This prey demonstrated superiority. To challenge again without adaptation is foolishness, not honor. The word stung, but Dark Skykiller recognized their truth. The prey had won because the predator had underestimated the invisible force, had relied too heavily on standard tactics, had been too eager for direct confrontation. A wiser hunter would have studied longer, prepared more thoroughly, struck with greater cunning. I understand, Dark Skykiller clicked finally. I will heal. I will learn. And when I return, I will be worthy of the prey, or I will die trying. Good. Ancient Flame placed a scarred hand on the younger hunter's shoulder. Your footage will be studied by all clans. This prey, Darth Vader, is now marked in our archives as ultimate challenge. Many young hunters will seek it, drawn by glory. But you have first right. Use it wisely. The elders departed, and medical technicians swarmed Dark Skykiller, rushing the injured hunter to the medical bay. As the predator was placed in a healing tank, biomask removed to reveal the mandibles and scarred face beneath, a final thought clicked through the fading consciousness. The prey lived, but the hunt was far from over. Vader had won the battle. But the war between predator and prey had only begun. And somewhere in that galaxy far, far away, Darth Vader would learn that some hunters never gave up. Never forgot. And never stopped coming until the trophy was finally claimed or the hunter died. The throne room on Coruscant was darkness the Yautja way. Emperor Palpatine sat upon his raised seat, robes pooling around him like shadow-given form, his withered face illuminated only by the faint glow of the city planet beyond the viewport. Before him, Darth Vader knelt, black armor stark against the polished floor. The air crackled with dark side energy, two Sith Lords in the same space, their combined power thick enough to suffocate lesser beings. "Rise, Lord Vader." Palpatine's voice was deceptively soft. "We have much to discuss." Vader stood, his mechanical breathing the only sound. He had spent the hyperspace journey preparing for this conversation, marshalling arguments, anticipating questions. The Emperor was many things: cruel, manipulative, calculating, but never foolish. He would have analyzed the footage from every possible angle. "You have seen the recording," Vader stated. "Not a question." "Indeed. Most illuminating." Palpatine's yellow eyes gleamed with dark amusement. "Tell me, my apprentice, how does it feel to have your invincibility challenged? To bleed for the galaxy to see?" The intruder was formidable, Vader admitted carefully. It possessed technology beyond Imperial capabilities and combat skills refined over what must have been centuries of hunting. But it failed. It fled or died. The threat is neutralized. Is it? Palpatine leaned forward slightly. The creature is gone, yes. But what it represented, that remains. It proved that you are not invincible, Lord Vader. That sufficient force and cunning can wound even a Sith Lord. Do you know what happens when the Empire's most feared enforcer is shown to be vulnerable? Vader's hands clenched. The rebels will be emboldened. Criminal syndicates will see opportunity. Lesser threats will multiply. Precisely. Palpatine settled back. Fear is our greatest asset. And fear requires the belief that resistance is futile. You have projected that image for years, the unstoppable Dark Lord who crushes all opposition. Now that image is tarnished. He paused, letting the words sink in. Unless we control the narrative. Control it how, Master? Simple. We acknowledge the intruder's power, but emphasize your victory. Yes, you were wounded, but you survived and drove the creature to self-destruction. We frame this not as your failure, but as a demonstration that even the most dangerous beings from beyond our galaxy cannot defeat the Empire's might. Palpatine's smile was predatory. We turn their propaganda against them. Show that while you can be challenged, you cannot be defeated. Vader considered. It was masterful, taking a moment of weakness and reshaping it into strength. The Emperor's talent for manipulation was unparalleled. And if more of these hunters arrive, then we will be ready. I am authorizing the development of new weapons specifically designed to counter cloaking technology and exotic armaments. We will also increase security at all vital installations. Palpatine's expression darkened. But you, Lord Vader, will undergo additional training. You were caught off guard by this creature's abilities. That will not happen again. What training did you have in mind, Master? The dark side offers powers you have not yet mastered. Techniques that could have ended this hunt more quickly, more decisively. You relied too heavily on conventional force abilities, telekinesis, lightning, physical enhancement. But there are other paths. Drain life force. Project fear that shatters minds. Create force storms that would have obliterated the hunter before combat began. Palpatine stood, descending from the throne to stand before his apprentice. You are powerful, my friend. But you have not yet reached your full potential. The Emperor's words were simultaneously encouragement and criticism, suggesting Vader was strong but implying he could have been stronger. Classic manipulation. But Vader recognized the truth in them. He had been testing himself against the Predator, almost enjoying the challenge. If he had unleashed his full dark side power immediately, killed without mercy or honor, the hunt would have ended in seconds. But that would have felt empty. Like killing an insect. The Predator had deserved better. Vader pushed the thought aside. Such sentiments were weaknesses. I will undergo whatever training you deem necessary, Master. This creature exposed limitations I must overcome. Good. Palpatine returned to his throne. Now, there is another matter. The Mandalorians who distributed this footage. They must be dealt with. I have already deployed Inquisitors to track their network. Clan Vizsla will be found and eliminated. See that they are. But do not make martyrs of them. These Mandalorians respect strength. Perhaps. Palpatine's eyes gleamed with calculation. Perhaps some could be turned. Recruited. Their warrior culture could serve the Empire, given proper incentive. Vader doubted it. Mandalorians were notoriously stubborn, but he would investigate the possibility. As you command, Master. One final question, Lord Vader. Palpatine's tone shifted, becoming almost curious. If this hunter returns, as its species apparently does when prey remains unclaimed, what will you do? Vader didn't hesitate. I will kill it. Quickly and decisively. There will be no prolonged combat, no testing of abilities. I will demonstrate what happens when beings from beyond our galaxy threaten Imperial authority. Excellent. Then you are dismissed. Attend to your duties, Lord Vader. And remember, vulnerability is acceptable, but only if it precedes inevitable victory. The galaxy must believe that while you can be wounded, you cannot be defeated. Maintain that belief, and this incident becomes a footnote. Fail, and it becomes the first crack in the Empire's foundation. Vader bowed and departed. As he walked through the Imperial Palace's corridors, stormtroopers snapping to attention at his approach, he considered the Emperor's words. The hunt with Dark Skykiller had changed something fundamental. Before, Vader had believed himself truly unstoppable. That no being in the galaxy could challenge a Sith Lord's supremacy. Now he knew better. Technology, skill, and determination could challenge the Force. Could wound it. Could force even a Dark Lord to retreat. That knowledge was dangerous. Not because it weakened Vader, but because it reminded him of who he used to be. Anakin Skywalker had believed in facing challenges head-on, testing himself against worthy opponents, growing through combat. Darth Vader was supposed to have crushed such notions. Sith-dominated, they didn't test themselves. But fighting the Predator had awakened something. The thrill of genuine challenge. The satisfaction of facing an opponent who couldn't be intimidated or overwhelmed easily. It had been exhilarating. And that exhilaration was dangerous because it suggested Vader still had fragments of Anakin within him. He crushed those fragments ruthlessly. Anakin Skywalker was dead. Only Vader remained. And Vader would prove it by ensuring the next hunt, if it came, ended in the Predator's absolute destruction. Across the galaxy, in the Outer Rim territories where Imperial control was weakest, Dark Skykiller's footage continued to spread. Rebel cells analyzed every frame, identifying Vader's combat patterns and vulnerabilities. Mandalorian clans studied the battle, recognizing kindred spirits in both combatants. Bounty hunters speculated about what price the Predator's head might command. If it still lived. And on distant worlds where Force-sensitive beings survived in hiding, the footage provided hope. If a hunter from beyond the stars could wound Vader, perhaps the Jedi weren't as extinct as the Empire claimed. Perhaps resistance was possible. Perhaps the darkness could be challenged. But in the Mustafar system, where the ruined fortress still smoked and burned, only silence remained. The meditation chamber was gone. The tower was destroyed. And somewhere in the debris, if anyone cared to look, were fragments of exotic alloys and unusual technology that didn't match any known species in Imperial databases. Evidence that something from beyond the galaxy had come hunting. Had challenged the Empire's greatest weapon. And had survived to tell the tale, or at least to transmit its footage before escaping into the void. Vader stood on the Executor's bridge as the Super Star Destroyer prepared to depart Coruscant, watching stars blur into hyperspace. His chest wound had healed, his armor was repaired, and his reputation was being carefully reconstructed by Imperial propaganda. In official reports, the Mustafar incident was described as a terrorist attack by an unknown extremist group, swiftly neutralized by Lord Vader with minimal casualties. No mention of alien hunters. No acknowledgement of advanced technology. Just another threat crushed by Imperial might. But Vader knew the truth. And somewhere in the void between galaxies, so did Dark Skykiller. The Predator had marked him, designated him as worthy prey. The hunt was paused, not ended. And when it resumed, if it resumed, the confrontation would be even more intense. Let it come, Vader thought. The dark side was his strength. The Force was his weapon. And when the hunter returned, it would learn that some prey evolved, adapted, and became predators themselves. The next hunt would have a different outcome. Vader would ensure it. In the medical bay of the Yautja mothership, Dark Skykiller floated in healing fluids, body slowly regenerating from catastrophic injuries. The biomask was gone, revealing the scarred face and clicking mandibles. Around the tank, holographic displays showed the battle footage on repeat. Every moment analyzed, every mistake identified, every lesson learned. The prey had won. But the hunt was far from over. Yautja measured lives in centuries. Vader's life expectancy, for all his cybernetic enhancements, was measured in decades at best. Time favored the hunter. And when Dark Skykiller returned, and the Predator would return, it would be with experience, wisdom, and equipment specifically designed to counter the invisible force that had tipped the balance. The ultimate trophy awaited. And no Yautja in history had ever abandoned a hunt simply because the prey proved too strong. That was when the hunt became truly worthy. Both hunter and prey understood this truth. Both prepared for the inevitable rematch. And across the galaxy, beings watched and wondered, what happened when an unstoppable Sith Lord met an unyielding alien hunter? Who would triumph when darkness faced darkness? The Force provided no answers. Only the certainty that when the hunt resumed, the galaxy would tremble at the clash. And one way or another, the legend of either Darth Vader or Dark Skykiller would end. The only question was which one. The legend spread across the galaxy like wildfire through dry underbrush. In rebel bases, soldiers traded stories of the mysterious hunter who'd wounded Darth Vader in his own fortress. On Imperial Star Destroyers, stormtroopers whispered about creatures from beyond the stars that even Sith Lords couldn't easily defeat. And in the criminal underworld, bounty hunters studied the footage with professional interest, recognizing tactics and honor codes that transcended species and galaxies. But the truth was simpler and more complex than any legend. Two apex predators had met, one forged by the dark side of the Force, the other shaped by millennia of hunting tradition. Both had tested the other's limits. Both had drawn blood. And both had walked away forever changed by the encounter. For Darth Vader, the hunt shattered the illusion of invincibility. He had believed himself beyond challenge, that the Force made him supreme over any threat. Dark Skykiller had proven otherwise. Technology, skill, and unwavering determination could match even a Sith Lord's power. The lesson was humbling and dangerous. It reminded Vader that he was still vulnerable, still mortal beneath the armor and dark side fury. But it also drove him to new heights of power, pushing him to master techniques that would ensure no future hunter found him unprepared. For Dark Skykiller, the hunt represented both failure and the highest honor. The Predator had not claimed the ultimate trophy, had not added Vader's skull to the clan's collection. But the hunter had survived combat with prey that killed legends, had adapted to an energy field that shouldn't exist, and had forced one of the galaxy's most feared beings to retreat. In Yautja culture, such achievements transcended simple victory or defeat. They marked a hunter as having faced the impossible and emerged worthy of respect. The footage remained, spreading through encrypted channels and underground networks. Every viewing sparked debate: could Vader be killed? Were there more predators waiting beyond known space? How would the Empire respond to future incursions? The questions had no easy answers, but they accomplished something profound. They proved that even the Empire's mightiest weapons were not beyond challenge. And somewhere in the void between galaxies, Dark Skykiller healed and planned. The prey had won this hunt, but the war was far from over. Yautja tradition demanded that worthy prey be pursued until either hunter or hunted fell. Time meant nothing to beings who measured lives in centuries. Vader would age, would weaken, would eventually present an opening. And when that moment came, the predator would return. The hunt would resume. Perhaps in months. Perhaps in years. Perhaps in the twilight of Vader's existence, when age and conflict had finally worn down the Dark Lord's defenses. But it would resume. Because some hunts transcended logic, transcended safety, transcended even the possibility of victory. They became quests for meaning, proof that honor mattered more than survival, that facing impossible odds was itself a form of victory. The galaxy would never forget the day a hunter from beyond the stars came for Darth Vader. Whether the legend ended in a predator's triumph or final defeat, one truth remained: even in a galaxy bound by the Force, there were powers from beyond that could challenge the darkness itself. And that knowledge, more than any weapon, gave hope to those who fought against the Empire's tyranny. The hunt continued. The prey endured. And between them, across light years and lifetimes, the ultimate question remained unanswered: when unstoppable force meets immovable object, which one yields first? Only time, and the will of warriors, would tell.